I'm back to share with you some information that I found while doing research on the subject of abortion. What you're looking at right now is the hand of a baby that was aborted by its mother in Michigan. The hand appears to be giving us the Spock Vulcan sign to live long and prosper. Although this baby and babies like this baby are not allowed to have that right to live long and prosper. I might also add that the Vulcan salute is taken from the Jewish language called the Shin, and from the word Shaddai, which in Jewish means Almighty God. I can't help but wonder, is the baby trying to tell us something? Although I'm not a religious person, and most of the people around me know I'm not religious, I find that quite interesting. Some other interesting information that I found while doing research was an article that was published online by Health, and was published in January 30th, 2017. And it really got me to thinking, because I think this is extremely important. The article is entitled 7 Women Share How Long It Took Before They Realized They Were Pregnant. I think this is extremely important. Being a woman, I understand the process of menstruation, and so I do understand that sometimes a woman who is very in tune to their body will know that something is up after they've missed their first menstruation cycle for the month. If that woman is pretty in tune to her body and right as rain, she may know very early and can go get a test to find out if she's pregnant. But generally, that doesn't even happen until you've missed your first menstrual cycle. If you're a person like, for an example, a friend of mine whose menstruation cycle is very erratic, and sometimes she may not have a cycle for a couple months, maybe 3-4 months she may not have a cycle again. So she may not know until much later on that she's even pregnant. I mean, you do have the ability to go to a grocery store now and get a test to find out if you're pregnant. Most women and girls that do this take this at home first, and if they find out that it does show that they're pregnant, they will probably go to a doctor to find out for certain if they're pregnant. So sometimes this may not happen till much later on. And the reason this is important, remember, is because I was telling you about the stages of development and the fact that a baby, as early as, from what I've been reading now, as early as 16 days, can have a heartbeat. I've read 18 days, I've read 20 to 21 days, so it varies, but it's still very early on. I've also found out that there's different ages, that classification of ages of the stages of development, and one is a gestational age of the baby, and one is the actual developmental stages of the baby. And I'm going to do some more research into that, but the research that I've done as of now shows that the development of the baby really begins to accelerate once it starts to develop. Anyway, this article, I'll just read you the first story here, and this person's name is Beth, and she is already at 3.5 weeks. She states, I realized I was pregnant fairly early, around 3.5 weeks in. I'd gone off the pill more than a year beforehand and quickly realized my natural menstruation cycle was around 21 days. I had never been late before, so when I hadn't gotten my period in 4 days, I think I instinctively knew I was pregnant. I woke up that morning and I figured I should take a pregnancy test, my first one ever, still not fully grasping the reality of my potential situation. Sure enough, the pee stick confirmed it, and I promptly panicked. Even though my husband and I had been trying to conceive, there's a big difference between trying and it actually happening. I'm excited now, but it definitely took me some time to mentally catch up with my new life status. I think that this statement is very important because I think, especially if you're very young and you find out that you're pregnant, I think initially there's a time where you are so into panic you may not be thinking rationally. You may not have the ability to understand the ramifications of what you're about to do. So I think that makes someone very vulnerable, and I also think that those situations makes it harder for them to make an informed decision. And as you can see, out of those 7 women, the majority of them are between 3 to 4 weeks along. Now remember, that's very important because once that baby starts to get its heartbeat and starts developing, it grows at an incredible rate very quickly. This woman is 6 to 8. This one is 7 to 8 weeks. This one is 9 weeks. Believe it or not, that this woman was 12 weeks pregnant before she even knew that she was pregnant. Okay, so keep those ages, or I would say those development ages of the fetus in mind as you're watching and looking at these images. This series of photographs is from that photographer that I mentioned in my earlier video called Lennart Nilsson. He's a Swedish photographer, and he took these amazing, beautiful photographs of fetuses in the womb. So the image on the left is just 6 weeks old, and as you can see, a little spinal column is forming. It's got little arm buds, little leg buds. It's got its little skull beginning to form on its head. This baby on the right is 6.5 weeks old. Just 6.5 weeks old. And you can see it has eyes. It's got a nose bud. It's got little arms and hands with fingers. That's 6.5 weeks old. Now remember the article. Just 6.5 weeks old. Okay. There's another image of a baby at 6.5 weeks old. There's no question, it's a little human being right there. That's a little human being. The baby on the right is just 8 weeks old. See its little legs and its little toes? At 8 weeks old. It's just amazing how beautiful life is. So amazing how we get here, how we're formed. Again, it's like a little astronaut of the womb. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. these images are very important to keep in mind, knowing that full-term abortions are being allowed in New York and in Virginia right now. The baby on the left is just 12 weeks old. 12 weeks. See its little fingers? It's developing the bones, the little femur bones in its arm, in its hands. It's got a nose, eyes. The baby on the right is 16 weeks old. Tell me that that's not a human being. It's beautiful. It has a fully formed nose. Its eyes are now at the stage where the eyelids have grown and they're shut, and it'll remain shut. The little eyes will remain shut until the baby is born. And after the baby is born, until the eyes open to see the world for the first time. It's got little lips. Even the little hands appear to have little fingernails. Okay, remember the video that I showed you previously where the tissue people, the baby harvesters, came to the abortion conference to try to convince the abortionists to have the babies be born whole so that they could harvest the brain tissue. Remember, that was the best case scenario for them, was from 18 to 24 weeks in age. The baby on the left is 18 weeks old. And look, the baby is sucking its thumb, its little ear. It's sucking its thumb. It's already learning to comfort itself at just 18 weeks old. The image on the right is a baby at 28 weeks old. It's amazing life is. It's amazing how we get here. Amazing how quickly, really, if you think about it, how quickly human beings form. I hope you'll come back again. I'm going to continue to do research. If you're someone who's listening to this video and you've been a victim of abortion, I want you to know that there are people who care about you. I believe that women have not been given proper information, and I think that's resulted in a lot of trauma. Thank you for viewing. If you like this video, please share it with other people to help me get the word out. Thank you.